Hello, dear students. Very good morning, very good evening, and very good night, depending on you're watching the time. So today topic is valency bond theory. So in this today's session, valency bond theory, each and every point clearly will be discussed, and how the valency bond theory is useful, why the valency bond theory is proposed. So everything, each and every point will be discussed related to valency bond theory. At the same time, it will be useful for the IIT, NEET and AIMS and MSET purpose also it will be useful. So don't skip the video, listen properly, and you can get the subject perfectly. So now we are going to start the session. The topic name is valency bond theory. So generally we called as a VBT. So generally the short name we call as a VBT, and we called as a valency bond theory. So before discussion of the valency bond theory, or before entering into the valency bond theory, we will discuss about the one more theory. So that is a Lewis theory. The theory we call as a Lewis theory. So why we have to discuss the Lewis theory? Mean valency bond theory is an extension of the Lewis theory. Valency bond theory is a extension of the Lewis theory. So that's why you have to discuss the Lewis theory. So mean in the chemistry, generally if you observe the different laws or different theories which is given by the different scientists, one of the scientists, if he fail to explain some points in a given theory, so that point is explained by other scientists by the different name. So for example, if we see the structure of atom, Thomson atomic model failed to explain the stability. Then come to the Rutherford model, it does not explain the revolving of electrons. This is explained by the Bohr's theory. So now one of the scientists is failed, that particular point is explained by the other scientist with a different name. Same here also Lewis theory. Lewis theory is failed to explain some points, that is explained by the valency bond theory. At the same time, valency bond theory, if it is failed, that is explained by the hybridization. After that, valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. After that, molecular orbital theory. So in the chemistry, one of the theory or one of the point in a theory, if it is failed, that is explained by the other scientists with the different name. So same here also, Lewis theory is failed to explain some points, and that points is explained by the another theory we call as a valency bond theory. So we call valency bond theory is the extension of the Lewis theory. So now if you come to the topic, then where the Lewis theory has failed. So according to Lewis theory, an atom is stable when it is having 8 electrons in their valence shell. So we know this point. Lewis theory gives the information about the stability of the atom with the help of octet rule. So according to Lewis theory, the elements which is having 8 electrons in their valence shell, we called as a octet configuration, and these elements are considered as a stable. So generally only 8th group of elements having the 8 electrons in their valence shell, the remaining group of element does not have the 8 electrons. Only 8th group of elements having 8 electrons in their valence shell, but the remaining group of element does not having 8 electrons in their valence shell. It means only 8th group of elements are stable. Only 8th group of elements are stable. The remaining group of elements, only 8th group of elements are stable. The remaining group of elements are, we can say, simply unstable. Mean first A group, second A group, third group, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So these group of elements are, we can say, clearly unstable because their valence shell there is no 8 electrons. So according to Lewis theory, the elements which is having 8 electrons in their valence shell we considering as a stable. Other than 8th group of element, no other group of elements having 8 electron. It means no other elements are what? Stable. Every element is unstable. Now these unstable elements also try to get the stable. Then what way these elements are get the stable? Mean according to Lewis theory, the elements are get the stable by the two ways. One is by the transferring of electrons, by the transferring of electron from one atom to other atom. At the same time, by sharing of electrons, sharing of electron between the two atoms, and here between the two atoms. So according to Lewis theory, the atoms are get the stable configuration or achieve the 8 electrons in their valence shell by the two ways. One is by the transferring of electron from one atom to other atom, and the second one is by sharing of electron between the two atoms. By the transferring of electron, the resulting bond formation we called as a ionic bond. By the sharing of electron between the two atoms, the resulting bond is forming we called as a covalent bond. We called as a covalent bond. Now if you see, according to Lewis theory, atoms are unstable except the eighth group of element. Then the remaining group of elements are try to get the stable by the two ways, either by transferring of electron, either by sharing of electron. The elements are achieve the stable configuration by transferring of electron, and resulting of that the bond formation is called ionic bond. By the sharing of electron between the two atoms, also the atoms are achieve the 8 electrons in their valence shell, and the resulting of bond we call as a covalent bond. It means covalent bond is formed because of covalent bond is formed by the sharing of electrons between the two atoms equally. So that is explained by the Lewis theory. So means we can say that Lewis theory explains the formation of the covalent bond, but Lewis theory does not explain the shape of the molecule. So here this is the failure point, and that point is explained by the valency bond theory. Once again, Lewis theory it is explain the formation of the covalent bond, but Lewis theory does not explain the shape of the molecule and does not explain the bond character, means is the directional, is a non-directional, does not explain by the Lewis theory. So to explain the shape of the molecule and to explain the bond direction in a molecule, the scientists proposed one more theory, that is valency bond theory. Lewis theory says that hydrogen is forming, nitrogen is forming, HCl is forming, NH3 is forming, H2O is forming. How what molecules are forming, the Lewis theory explained because of octet configuration, but does not explain the shape of the molecule. H2O is a molecule we can explain with the help of Lewis theory, but what is the shape of the molecule does not explain by the Lewis theory. What is the NH3 shape of molecule does not explain by the Lewis theory. What is the shape of the HCl molecule, what is the shape of the BF3 molecule does not explain by the Lewis theory, but the shape of the molecules are explained by the valency bond theory. It means to explain the shape of the molecule, to explain the bond directional in a molecule, the scientists are propose one more theory is called as a valency bond theory. It's what you call valency bond theory. So this is the introduction part of the valency bond theory. So we can understand now why the valency bond theory is proposed. So why the valency bond theory is proposed? To explain the shape of the molecule, to explain the bond character or bond directional in a molecule, the scientists are propose the valency bond theory. So this is the valency bond theory, and we are going to start the valency bond theory now clearly. And my name is Venkatesh, and the channel is VNeet. So our YouTube channel is VNeet. If anyone not subscribed, please subscribe and get the updates. So complete information detailedly I'll try to give. It will be useful for the NEET and IIT, at the same time MCET purpose also. So now come to the session. Once again, my name is Venkatesh, and we are going to discuss about the valency bond theory. We are going to discuss about the valency bond theory. So we discussed just now why the valency bond theory the scientists are proposed. So now first one, the valency bond theory proposed by the two scientists. The scientist name is Hitler and London. The two scientists Hitler and London, they proposed the valency bond theory to explain the formation of the covalent bond. To explain the formation of covalent bond. After that, the another two scientists, Pauli and Slater. Next one, the two scientists, Pauling and Slater, they extended the theory. They extended the theory to explain the shape of the molecule, at the same time to explain the bond direction. To explain the bond directional. So here two scientists they proposed the theory, and the two scientists they extended theory. The scientists who is proposed, Hitler and London, they proposed the valency bond theory to explain the formation of the covalent bond. After that, Hitler and Pauli and Slater, they extended that. They extended by addition of some new points. So they extended the valency bond theory. So why they extended? To explain the shape of the molecule and to explain the directional of the bond in a molecule. So this is the valency bond theory. So let us see the postulates of the valency bond theory. So what is the postulates of the valency bond theory? Means what is the important points which is given by these scientists in a valency bond theory. So according to valency bond theory, how the covalent bond is forming and what is the shape, what is the directional of the band, we are going to discuss each and every point. So now according to valency bond theory, first point is very important. According to valency bond theory, a covalent bond formed. According to valency bond theory, a covalent bond formed between the two atoms. The two atoms may be same atoms, the two atoms may be different atoms. If same atoms are involving, we can say homonuclear diatomic molecule. If different atoms are involving, we call it as a heteronuclear diatomic molecule. Now, according to valency bond theory, covalent bond formed between the two atoms by the sharing of covalent bond formed between the two atoms by the sharing of unpaired valency shell unpaired atomic orbitals. So once again here, first postulates, the first points in the valency bond theory, covalent bond formed between the two atoms by the sharing of valence shell unpaired atomic orbital. Valence shell unpaired atomic orbital. Once again, covalent bond formed between the two atoms by the overlapping, not sharing here, by the overlapping of valency shell. By the overlapping of valence shell unpaired atomic orbital. What is the mean of overlapping here? So overlapping mean one of the orbital, it is mixed some part with another orbital. For example, this I am taking one of the orbital, this is another orbital. When the two orbitals are come close to each other, the two orbitals are mix each other some part. So that is called as a overlapping. That is called what? Overlapping. So now what kind of orbitals are overlapping here? Valency shell unpaired atomic orbitals are overlapping. Every atom having the valency shell. In that valency shell, unpaired electrons are present. So the unpaired electrons are valency shell, unpaired electrons are overlap here. So now the second point, which orbitals are overlapping? Valency shell unpaired atomic orbital. For example, I am taking hydrogen atom. Electronic configuration of hydrogen atom is 1s1. Another hydrogen atom electronic configuration also 1s1 because both atoms are same. Now here s orbital having how many electron? 1. And here s orbital having how many electron? 1. So now we can say this is the valency shell. Valency shell, how many electrons are present? 1 electron present. We know that 2 electron present, it is a pair. But here how many electrons are present? 1 electron. 1 electron, nothing but we can say it is a unpaired. So now what is the condition here? Valency shell unpaired atomic orbitals are overlapping. This is a valence shell and we have unpaired atomic orbital, and these orbitals are what happen now? Overlapping. So let us see how it is overlapping. So now this is which orbital? S orbital, and it is also S orbital. We know that S orbital shape is spherical. S orbital shape is what? Spherical. So now the two S orbital, first S orbital atom having 1 electron and the second S orbital here. This is the first hydrogen atom of S orbital having 1 electron, and the second hydrogen atom of S orbital, it is also having 1 electron. When these two orbitals are overlapping, here, this is the two orbitals are overlapping. So how it is overlapping here? Whatever the electrons are there here, the electrons are, after overlapping, the electrons are must be present with opposite spin. So whatever the two orbitals are overlapping here, each orbital having 1 unpaired electron. This unpaired electrons overlapping is opposite spin compulsory. It means the two electron after overlapping, the direction is this. It means two electrons are opposite spin, but not two electrons as a same spin. This is a very important point. Whatever the atomic orbitals are overlapping, the overlapping atomic orbital electron must be opposite spin. So this is the what first point, valence shell atomic orbitals are overlapping. So these overlapping, after overlapping, whatever the electrons are present here, the electrons are must be with the opposite spin. Now these two electrons are attracted by the two nucleus equally, because this is the first hydrogen atom nucleus, it is the second hydrogen atom nucleus. The two electrons are present between the two hydrogen atoms of the two nucleus. It means these electrons are attracted by this nucleus and this nucleus. Equally attraction is present. It means there is no repulsion maximum. Equal attraction is present. Because of that, the resulting molecule as a stable molecule. So, and one more point, in this process, when these two orbitals are overlapping, in this process, some amount of energy releasing outside, that energy we call as a bond energy. Here, first s orbital and another s orbital, both are overlapping. When the two orbitals are overlapping, some amount of energy releases outside. That energy we call as a bond energy. So here, some amount of energy releasing outside, that energy we call as a bond energy. So now, the resulting bond what is forming, having less amount of energy, due to that it is highly stable. So this is the formation of the covalent bond with the help of valency bond theory. And here once again, the two orbitals are overlapping. It is first orbital, it is second orbital. Two orbitals when it is overlapping. Depend on the extent of overlapping, we can decide the strength of the bond. So for example, I am taking this is one of the orbital, it is one of the orbital. The two atomic orbitals are overlapped each other. Now if I want to break this bond, I have to require some more amount of energy, because the overlapping is very more. If the overlapping is very less, see, now we can break very easily, and we can break very easily, and we can break some amount of energy, and we can break very more amount of energy. When we can give the more amount of energy to break, mean when the orbitals are overlapping very close to each other, extent of overlapping is very more. At that time, the strength of the bond is very more. So now here we can say that extent of overlapping or bond strength is directly proportional to extent of overlapping. Bond strength directly proportional to extent of overlapping. I am writing here, bond strength is directly proportional to extent of overlapping. More extent, the bond strength is very more, and the less extent, the bond strength is very less. So now here, strength of the bond is dependent on extent of overlapping. This is one of the factor. So finally, bond strength is dependent on two factors. One is extent of overlapping, and one more is, otherwise you can say nature of overlapping, and the second one is nature of orbital. And nature of overlapping. Simply we can say that bond strength is directly proportional to extent of overlapping, or also we can say that bond strength is dependent on two factors. Bond strength is dependent on two factors. Then what is the two factors here? So bond strength means what? I said that the amount of energy required to break the bond. If the bond is very strong bond, we have to apply more amount of energy. If the bond is very weak bond, we can apply less amount of energy for breaking. So this bond strength is dependent on two factors. So what is the two factor? First one, nature of orbitals. First one, nature of orbital. Second one is nature of overlapping. One is the nature of orbital, second one is what? Nature of overlapping. Then what is the nature of orbital? What is the nature of overlapping? Let us see nature of orbital, nothing but generally we know that four type of orbitals: s orbital, p orbital, d orbital and f orbital. S orbital is spherically symmetrical. It means there is no direction. P orbital having direction, d orbital having directional and f orbital having directional. So p orbital, d orbital, f orbital, we can say directional containing orbitals. But s orbital is a non-directional. So here depend on the nature of orbital. P orbital, d orbital, f orbital is a directional. We can say these are what? Directional. And s orbital is non-directional. S orbital is what? Non-directional. So the orbital which is having directional, it will be overlap more. So means maximum overlapping takes place. Maximum overlapping takes place. So now s orbital is what? There is non-directional. Non-directional nothing but what? Minimum overlapping takes place. Non-directional nothing but what? Minimum overlapping. So now what is maximum overlapping here? Directional orbital. What is minimum overlapping here? Non-directional. What is minimum overlapping? Nothing but s orbital. So s orbital is a non-directional and PDF orbitals is a directional. So why s orbital is a non-directional? Let us see here. So for example, s orbital is a spherically symmetrical. S orbital is spherically symmetrical. It means here center of the nucleus is present, and from the center of the nucleus at a certain distance, whatever the distance you can take, from the certain distance from the nucleus. This is one of the distance from the nucleus. So because nucleus is present at the center of the atom, any direction also it will be same amount of bond distance is present. For example, if I am taking this bond and this bond, same length is present, and this bond also same length is present. So now why the s orbital is non-directional? Mean s orbital shape is first of all spherically symmetrical. At the center nucleus is present. From the center of the nucleus at a certain distance, whatever the distance you can take, at a certain distance the electron density is equal. So whatever the distance you take, here to here, here to here, here to here, here and here, at every distance here from the center of the nucleus, in every distance the electron density is same, or finding of electron density is same. So it means there is no particular direction. If the electrons are more here, it's a particular direction. Here electrons are more, we can say this side particular direction. But there is no chance here s orbital, in s orbital from the center of the nucleus, the electrons finding of electron density is equal from the certain distance. So that's why there is no particular direction. Mean, so this is the nucleus. Here to here how much amount of electron distance is present? Here also same distance, here also same distance, same distance, same distance, same distance. Then where you can say that very more distant, nothing but there is no more distance. Everywhere same distance is present. That means there is no directional, particular direction is not present. But if you see the p orbital, for example, this is the p orbital. So this is the what? Center of the nucleus or internuclear axis. We can say above the internuclear axis or below the internuclear axis electron density present. But here s orbital, there is no chance. Completely around the nucleus the electron density present equally. It means there is no directional. So s orbital, why it is there is no directional, but this is the reason. So now s orbital is a non-directional. Non-directional nothing but non-directional orbitals are participating in minimum overlapping, and the directional orbitals are participating in maximum overlapping. So this is what nature of the orbitals. It is nature of the orbitals. Next one is nature of overlapping. Next one is nature of overlapping. So nature of overlapping nothing but, let us see here. So what nature of overlapping? Nature of overlapping is two types. Nature of overlapping nothing but two types of overlappings that takes place. One is end to end overlapping, and other one is sidewise overlapping. Sidewise overlapping, otherwise we can say that lateral overlapping also, and end to end overlap we can say linear overlapping also. So type of overlapping or nature of overlapping. Orbitals are overlapping in two different ways. One is end to end overlapping, another one is what? Sidewise overlapping. So end to end overlapping, generally it will be give the sigma bond. For example, end to end overlap means what? For example, this is s orbital. We discussed already, having the spherically symmetrical shape. Another s orbital also overlapping. These are the two ends of the two orbitals. We can say this type of overlapping is end to end overlapping. Another orbital you can take, for example, p orbital. P orbital shape is dumbbell shape. This is one end of the p orbital. Same another p orbital end is overlapping with here. So we can say this is what? End to end overlapping. So end to end overlap nothing but one orbital end is overlapping with another orbital end. Simply we can say end to end overlapping. And resulting of this sigma bond is possible, and end to end overlapping is very more. End to end overlapping is what here? Very more. Extent of overlapping is very more. Now come to the sidewise overlapping. So sidewise overlap nothing but, for example, this is one of the p orbital, and another p orbital is overlapping sidewise. This is the sidewise overlapping. But sidewise overlapping is very less overlapping, or we can say least overlapping. Resulting of that, we can say there is a weak overlapping. So now here what we discuss, end-to-end overlapping and sideways overlapping. So here nature of overlapping of the orbital. Depend on the type of overlapping, different bonds are possible between the two atoms. If the two atomic orbitals of the two atom, this is one hydrogen atom maybe, for example, this is another hydrogen atom. Two atoms of the two orbitals, it is overlapping end-to-end process, the resulting bond is forming, we call as a sigma bond. Next, the two atoms of the two orbitals is overlapping by the sidewise process, the resulting bond formation we call as a pi bond. And the sigma bond is strong bond and pi bond is weak bond. Sigma bond is strong bond and pi bond is weak bond. Sigma bond, after formation of sigma bond only pi bond can exist, but pi bond cannot exist independently. For example, if you see that oxygen nothing but what you can see, this is one sigma bond, one pi bond. So this we can say sigma bond, other one we can say that is pi bond. So after existence of sigma bond only pi bond possible, but individually pi bond does not possible. For example, hydrogen to hydrogen, single bond is present. Is this sigma bond or pi bond? 100% is a sigma bond. 100% is a sigma bond. There is no pi bond here because pi bond cannot exist independently. At the same time, geometry of the molecule is decided by the sigma bond, but not by the pi bond. Sigma bond is strong bond, pi bond is weak bond. At the same time, sigma bonded electrons are localized and pi bonded is what? It is a free, or you can say it is a mobile electrons. So this is about the sigma bond and pi bond. Once again, the difference about the sigma bond and pi bond. So very important, end-to-end overlapping of the atomic orbital gives the sigma bond, and the sidewise overlapping of the atomic orbital giving the pi bond. Sigma bond is strong bond, pi bond is weak bond, and after formation of the sigma bond only pi bond can be possible, but pi bond cannot exist independently. At the same time, geometry of the molecule decided by the sigma bond but not decided by the pi bond. So and sigma bond electrons are localized, pi bond electrons are what? Mobile electrons. So this is about the differences between the sigma bond and pi bond. So next one, if you see that here we are deciding, so two types of overlappings are takes place. One is nature of orbital, another one is nature of overlapping. So bond strength is depend on the two types of factors. Bond strength is depend on the two factors. One is nature of overlapping, other one is what? Nature of overlapping one is, at the same time nature of orbital one is. Nature of overlapping one is, at the same time another one is what? Nature of orbitals. So nature of overlapping, nature of orbitals is completed. For example, if I am taking formation of the hydrogen molecule. For example, formation of the hydrogen molecule, hydrogen atom having 1s atomic orbital and the another hydrogen atom also 1s atomic orbital. Two hydrogen atoms having two 1s atomic orbital. So 1s atomic orbital having one electron, another 1s atomic orbital also one electron. According to valency bond theory, valency shell unpaired atomic orbitals are overlapping. So this is the hydrogen atom, valency shell, one unpaired electron present. It is the hydrogen atom, valency shell, one unpaired electron present. According to valency bond theory, valency shell unpaired atomic orbitals are overlapping. So it is a s orbital. So it is a s orbital of the first hydrogen having one electron and the second hydrogen atom of s orbital having another electron. When these two orbitals are overlapping, whatever the electrons are present in these orbital, the electron direction must be opposite spin. And that now resulting bond forming between the two atoms we call as a covalent bond. So now this is the covalent bond forming. Now this covalent bond is forming between the s orbital to s orbital. So we can say this is a s orbital to s orbital overlapping. So hydrogen bond is forming between the what orbitals overlapping? S orbital to s orbital. Next one is another overlapping we are taking, that is a fluorine molecule. Another overlapping we are taking fluorine molecule. So fluorine atomic number is 7. Electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2 and the 2p5. Now 2s2, 2p5 is a valency shell configuration. 2s2, 2p5 is a valency shell configuration. So fluorine 5 electrons is present. Fluorine 5 electrons is present here. So now this is the fluorine 5 electron. In the valency shell of the fluorine, one unpaired electron present. Same another unpaired electron present in another fluorine atom also. Same another unpaired electron present in another fluorine atom also. So first fluorine atom of the one unpaired electron, second fluorine atom of the another unpaired electron, the two orbitals are overlapping each other. So now this is the p orbital. For example, if I am taking px, two atomic orbitals are overlap each other. So this is the first fluorine atom of one orbital with one electron, and another one second fluorine atom of the one orbital with one electron. When these two atomic orbitals are combined, whatever the electrons are present here, these electrons are present with opposite spin. Now this is the opposite spin. So here which orbital? This is p orbital, this is also p orbital. Now the overlapping is what? pp orbital overlapping. So first one is ss orbital overlapping completed, next one is pp orbital overlapping completed, and the next one is sp orbital overlapping. For example, if I am taking hydrogen fluoride, I am taking to explain the formation of sp hybrid orbital. So let us see here, hydrogen atomic number 1, so valence shell 1 electron present, that is in s orbital. Next one, fluorine, already we discussed, 1 electron present in px. Now these two atomic orbitals are overlapping. When these two atomic orbitals are overlapping here, this is the overlapping process. After the overlapping, the two electron must be opposite spin. Now these two overlapping, we can say sp overlap. Now if you see here, one is ss overlapping, another one is pp overlapping, another one is sp overlapping. These three overlappings also end to end overlapping. These three overlappings also what? End to. These three orbitals overlapping is end to end overlapping. Here ss orbital end overlapping, sp orbital end overlapping, and pp orbital also end to end orbital overlapping. So end to end orbital overlapping giving sigma bond. So this is everything is formation is what? Sigma bond formation. So now here, if you come to the pp orbital can be takes place two types of bond formation. One is sigma bond can take place, one is pi bond can be takes place. So now pp orbital overlapping can be give the two bonds, one is sigma bond can be give, another one pi bond will be give. When sigma bond is forming, when the two pp orbitals are participating in end to end overlapping, sigma bond will be give. When the two p orbitals are overlapping sidewise, it will be give the pi bond. When two p orbitals are overlapping sidewise, pi bond is possible. When two p orbitals are overlapping end to end, sigma bond is possible. So this is the formation of the sigma bond and pi bond. It means p orbital is involving two types of bond formation. One is sigma bond formation, one is pi bond formation. But one thing is very clear here, where the s orbital present, the s orbital combination with other orbital, surely it will be give the sigma bond. So s orbital to s orbital, sigma bond, s orbital to p orbital, sigma bond. So s orbital to other orbital is sigma bond, because s orbital is non-directional. The non-directional orbital, when it is overlapping in the bond formation, the resulting bond will be sigma bond. And here p orbital to p orbital, two types of bonds are forming. One is sigma bond, one is pi bond. Depending on the type of overlapping, one is end to end overlapping, another one is sideways overlapping. So let us see that here we are discussing about the bond strength. Bond strength is dependent on two factors. One is nature of overlapping, another one is nature of orbital. So nature of orbital, nothing but the orbital is directional orbital or the orbital is non-directional. Clear. Nature of overlapping, nothing but what type of overlapping takes place. Either end to end overlapping takes place or the sideways overlapping takes place. So we discussed that end to end overlapping giving sigma bond, sideways overlapping giving pi bond, and it is a strong bond and it is a weak bond. We discussed everything. Now we have to arrange that order of the bond strength, which orbital having more strength, which orbital having less strength. So next we will be discussing here the strength, bond strength here, bond strength in different orbitals, bond strength in different orbitals. So now I am discussing about that bond strength. First one is pp orbital overlapping, bond strength very more, then sp orbital, then ss orbital, again pp orbital. So we discussed that two factors. One is overlapping two ways. One is nature of overlapping, and the second one is nature of orbitals. So nature of overlapping end to end, nature of orbital directional and non-directional. End to end overlapping is very strong bond. End to end overlapping very strong bond. Let us see here pp end to end, sp end to end, and ss orbital also end to end overlapping. So this is the end-to-end overlapping, and the next one, this pp orbital is sidewise overlapping. This pp orbital is what? Sidewise overlapping. Always end-to-end is more strength compared to sidewise overlapping. So here we discuss different kind of end-to-end, different kind of sidewise. So always end-to-end is more strong compared to sidewise. In that pp orbital, p orbital to p orbital, end-to-end overlapping is more overlapping takes place compared to s and s. So that's why pp orbital end-to-end very strong, then sp and then ss. After that very weak bond is pp, but it is a sidewise overlapping. So this is the bond strength order. It is a bond strength order, very very important. This is the bond strength. So after this, after the directional property, after that we have to discuss about the directional property. So we said that here s orbital is a non-directional, but p orbital, d orbital is a directional. We know that already because we discussed p orbital having px, py, pz, d orbital having dxy, yz, zx, x square, y square and z square. So different orbitals here. So s orbital non-directional and the p orbital is directional and d orbital also directional. So now we have to discuss about the here directional character. Otherwise we have to discuss about what? Directional property. Next one you have to discuss about the directional property. So directional property mean what kind of orbitals are overlapping and how it is overlapping, that is gives the directional property. So s orbital is non-directional, but other orbitals are directional here. So depend on the directional property, the orbitals can be overlapped three types. One is positive overlapping, and the second one is negative overlapping, and the third one is zero overlapping. So orbitals can be overlapped in three ways. One is positive overlap, other one is negative overlap, other one is zero overlap. At what condition positive, at what condition negative, at what condition zero overlapping will be discussed. So generally here positive overlapping nothing but every orbital when you take s orbital non-directional, we can show the symbol with positive lobe, and the p orbital having the two lobes, that means we can say dumbbell, one of the lobe is showing as a positive sign, other lobe is showing as a negative sign, like a wave, because electron direction is like a wave. So that means one is a positive sign, one is negative, one is positive, one is negative is present. Same, for example here positive overlapping nothing but positive overlapping mean two positive sign of the orbitals if it is overlap each other, that is positive overlap. Once again, two positive or two same, two positive or two same sign of the orbitals if it is overlap, we can say there is a positive overlapping. For example, I am taking this is the p orbital having positive sign, another p orbital also having positive sign, both are overlapping. Same size containing orbitals are overlapping. Otherwise, one is s orbital having positive sign, another one p orbital having positive sign, overlapping. It is a positive overlapping. Next, negative overlapping. Two opposite sign containing orbitals overlapping, we can say negative overlapping. It may be pi bond, it may be sigma bond, whatever the bonds you can write, no problem. For example, I am taking pi bond. It is positive and it is a negative, and it is overlapping with another negative, another positive. See here, one is positive negative, another one is negative positive, opposite signs. So we can say negative bond formation. At the same time, for example, another one taking this is the positive and it is a negative. So positive and negative overlapping resulting bond formation, a resulting overlapping takes place, a negative overlap. Next one, zero overlapping. Zero overlapping, there is no proper overlapping takes place. For example, I am taking it is a p orbital may be positive and one is negative overlapping, and s orbital is overlapping, there is no particular overlapping. See, this orbital does not overlapping with above lobe, does not overlapping with below lobe. Such type of overlapping we can say zero overlapping. Zero overlapping does not overlap properly, or there is no overlapping. For example, I am taking this is the positive, negative, one of the p orbital, another orbital I am taking positive, negative. This is the internuclear axis. See, there is two orbital not overlapping. When two orbital not overlapping, you can say zero overlapping. Other two orbital properly not overlapping, also zero overlapping. Positive overlapping nothing but what? Two same sign orbitals overlapping positive. The two same sign may be positive, may be negative, it will be positive overlapping. Two different sign or two opposite sign orbitals are overlapping, the resulting overlapping what you call negative overlapping. So totally three types of overlapping takes place: positive overlapping, negative overlapping, and one more is what? Zero overlapping. So this is the three types of overlappings: positive, negative and zero overlapping. So next we have to discuss about the bond strength. Already we discussed the bond strength. Some more information about the bond strength we have to discuss. very important application type of questions here. Bond strength directly proportional to extent of overlapping. Bond strength directly proportional to extent of overlapping. This is already we discussed. Bond strength is directly proportional to extent of overlapping. More extension of overlapping, more strength. Less extension of overlapping, less strength, right? So already we discussed that extension order. We discussed, so here the extent of order, bond strength, extent of order, what is that here? P orbital to P orbital, next S orbital to P orbital, next S orbital to S orbital, next P orbital to P orbital. These three is what? End-to-end overlapping. So these three is what? End-to-end overlapping, and this is what? Sidewise overlapping. When p orbital to p orbital sidewise overlapping takes place, resulting of that pi bond is takes place. That bond is weak. So it is the p orbital to p orbital sidewise overlapping gives a weak bond. Same p orbital to p orbital end-to-end overlap means sigma bond is possible. It is a very strong bond. So this is what bond strength is directly proportional to what? Extent of overlapping. So this is the first priority. And the second one, bond strength, how can you decide? Second one is bond strength is indirectly proportional to size of orbitals. Bond strength indirectly proportional to size of orbital. It's a very important. Bond strength indirectly proportional to size of orbital. So what is the bond strength indirectly proportional to size of orbital? Size of orbital, if it is more, that means n value, if it is more, then the bond strength is less. N value, if it is more, n nothing but maybe you can take as a shell value, shell number, first shell, second shell, third shell, fourth shell. Shell value, if it is increases, the bond strength what happens? Decreases. So a simple example let us discuss, that is hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen bromide, hydrogen iodide. So this is the 4 examples. If you see that hydrogen 1s orbital, fluorine 2p orbital, hydrogen 1s, chlorine 3p, hydrogen 1s, bromine 4p, hydrogen 1s, iodine 5p. So here what? 1s 2p, 1s 3p, 1s 4p, 1s 5p. This is a different type of overlapping. If you see 2p orbital very close than the 3p orbital to the nucleus, 3p is very close than the 4p, and 4p close than the 5p. That means what happened? The shell number is increases. That means the size of the orbital is increases. 2p orbital size is small than 3p. 3p size is, sorry, 2p, yes, 3p size is small than 4p. 4p size is small than 5p. That means what happened? Size of the orbital what happened? Increases. Otherwise we can say n value increases. What is the n value? 2. What is the n value? 3. What is the n value? 4. What is the n value? 5. So we can write this is 1 2 overlapping, 1 3 overlapping, 1 4 overlapping, 1 5 overlapping. So now where the strength is more? Here the strength is more. Because 2p orbital very close to the nucleus, it means size is very less. So very close to the nucleus, nothing but attraction is very more. Attraction more, nothing but you have to break, require more amount of energy. So 1s to 2p bond is very strong bond compared to 1 3, 1 4, 1 5. That's why hydrogen iodide bond we can break easily compared to hydrogen fluoride, because hydrogen is a common size here, but iodine size is what? Very large. So size large, nothing but indirectly the bond length is very more. Bond length more, we can break easily. So this is the reason. So next one, not only this one, another orbitals overlapping also we can take. So maybe that is 1 1 orbital overlapping, next of all 1 2 orbital overlapping, next one 2 2 orbital overlapping, next one 2 3 orbital overlapping, next 3 3 orbital overlapping also you can write. This is very important order. 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 3 and 3 3. So this is a very important order of the bond strength. Very important. Don't forget this one. Here, when the shell is increases, shell size is increases, bond strength decreases. Not only this one, you have to remember this also. First shell, second shell, second shell, third shell to third shell. Distance is increases. Distance increases, but the shell size increases. At the same time, distance is increases. Bond length increases. We can break the bond easily. So here 1 1 orbital bond length is very small. Bond length very small, nothing but it is a very strong bond. So we cannot break easily. That's why strength is more. Here 3 3 nothing but 3p orbital. So that means the bond length is very more. Bond length more, nothing but you can break easily. So at the time we can say it is a weak bond. So this is the bond strength order that is indirectly proportional to size of orbital. Next one, bond strength of pi bond. This is the last one. Your bond strength of 5 bond. One more is a bond strength of 5 bond you have to discuss. Bond strength of 5 bond. Bond strength of pi bond. So let us see. What is the bond strength of pi bond? So generally pi bond is formed because of the pp orbital overlapping. That means px, px or py, py or pz, pz. So different kind of orbital depend on the type of overlapping, means end to end overlapping or sideways overlapping. Depend on that it will give the pi bond. Sideways overlapping, pi bond. End to end overlapping, sigma bond. Then you are discussing about the bond strength of pi bond. Bond strength of pi bond we are discussing. So now here the bond strength of pi bond 2p pi 3p pi. 2p pi 2p pi, not 3p pi. 2p pi and 2p pi orbital bond strength is very more. Next one 2p pi and 3d pi strength is very more. Next one 2p pi and 3p pi strength, and very less strength is a 3p pi to 3p pi orbital. This is very important. So let us see here 2p pi orbital to 2p pi orbital. That means 2p orbital, 2p orbital. For example, I am taking fluorine molecule. Fluorine molecule means what will come here? Fluorine or oxygen you can take. For example, oxygen molecule, nitrogen molecule is stable at a room temperature. Oxygen molecule and nitrogen molecule are stable at room temperature, but S2 molecule does not stable. S2 molecule does not stable. Why it is explained? This is the question. So let us see here. For example, I am taking oxygen molecule. Oxygen molecule is what? Oxygen to oxygen double bond is takes place. Electronic configuration of oxygen is what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So valence shell of the phosphorus 4 electrons are present. 1, 2, 3, 4. It means first oxygen atom of the px orbital, second oxygen atom of the py orbital, these two orbitals are overlapping. First oxygen atom of one p orbital, second oxygen atom of another p orbital. These two orbitals are overlapping here. When these two orbitals are overlapping, one is forming sigma bond, other one is forming pi bond, because both are the pp orbitals only. One of the p orbital end to end overlap, another p orbital sideways overlapping. So the orbital which is giving the end to end overlapping form the sigma bond. The orbital which is sideways overlapping giving the pi bond. So it means oxygen to oxygen, one sigma bond is present, one pi bond is present, and these two bonds are forming between the what? 2p pi. We are discussing about the pi bond here. So the pi bond is forming between the 2p orbital of the first oxygen atom to 2p orbital of the second oxygen atom. So now the pi bond forming between what? 2p pi to 2p pi. Next one, nitrogen. Nitrogen also pi bond is forming, right? Nitrogen also one pi bond is forming. Here two sigma bonds, sorry, one pi bond and one sigma bond and two pi bond. So the pi bond forming between what? So nitrogen electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, valence shell s orbital 2 electron, p orbital 3 electrons are present. So this is the first nitrogen atom, and second nitrogen atom I am taking. This is the second nitrogen atom. So first nitrogen atom of 3 unpaired electron, second nitrogen atom of 3 unpaired electron will be overlap. First nitrogen atom of 2 unpaired electron, sorry, 3 unpaired, second nitrogen atom 3 unpaired overlap. It means one is 2px, 2px, one is 2py, 2py, another one 2pz, 2pz. It means say sigma bond is forming, two pi bonds are forming. For example, these two are the sigma bonds is forming. These two combinations sigma bond is forming. The remaining two orbitals containing electrons combination pi bond is takes place. It means this is also a pi bond between 2p 2p. It is also a pi bond between 2p 2p. So that means what? 2p orbital to 2p orbital is sigma bond forming. Yeah, pi bond is forming. 2p pi and 2p pi. Next one is what? Sulfur. Sulfur nothing but what? Atomic number is 16 and the valency configuration 3s2 3p4. Valency configuration 3s2 3p4. So sulfur valency shell 4 electrons are present. Another sulfur valency shell also 4 electrons are present. Let us see. First sulfur here. This is a sulfur to sulfur combination. One sigma bond is forming, another one is forming the pi bond. But this pi bond forming between the 3p orbital and 3p orbital. So 3p orbital overlapping is very less. 3p pi orbital, 3p pi orbital overlapping, the bond strength is very less. That means the bond strength is very weak. Bond strength very weak, nothing but the molecule does not stable. That's why S2 does not stable at room temperature. S2 does not stable at room temperature because of what? It is a orbital overlapping 3p pi orbital, 3p pi orbital. 3p pi orbital, 3p pi orbital overlapping is very, very weak or very, very less strength. That's why S2 molecule does not forming at room temperature, means is not a stable at room temperature, but oxygen and nitrogen stable, because oxygen also forming 2p pi 2p pi overlapping and nitrogen also 2p pi 2p pi overlapping. And the next one here, 2p pi 3d, 2p pi 3p. Why 2p pi 3d orbital is more overlapping than 3p? Nothing but 3d orbital having 4 lobes, and 3p orbital having only 2 lobes. Because of the 4 lobes is present, and because of the structure of the d orbital here, the overlapping is very more compared to 3p orbital. So that's why overlapping more, nothing but more strength. And here between the two same energy containing orbital, energy difference is very, very less. 2p to 2p energy difference is what? Very, very, very less, because one is x orbital, maybe one is another. Same, there is, we can say simply there is no energy change. So that's why what? There is no energy gap. Okay, zero energy gap also we can say that. So that's why it is a very, very strong bond. Here orbital overlapping is very more, 2p to 3d, that's why very more strength compared to 2p to 3p. Because 3p orbital having lobe, dumbbell shape. Here what? 3d orbital is double dumbbell shape. Here this orbital depend on the structure will be more overlap with the 2p, but this 3p orbital does not easily overlap, does not more overlapping with the 2p. That's why it is a weak bond and it is a strong bond is takes place. Clear? So this is about what? Bond strength of pi bond. Bond strength of what? Pi bond here. So next one is different kind of orbitals. When it is overlap, either it is forming sigma bond, sometimes either it is forming pi bond. So at what condition is forming sigma bond, what condition forming pi bond, let us discuss. So this is the last topic here. One is orbital and the next one is internuclear axis. First one is orbital, second one internuclear axis, and the third one is bond. What type of bond is takes place? So let us see here. First one is orbital. What orbital I am taking? First one, combination of s orbital to s orbital I am taking. Internuclear axis, whatever the internuclear axis you can take, because there is no direction. S orbital, there is no direction. We can take any internuclear axis also. Whatever the internuclear axis also you can take s orbital. If it is present, nothing but sigma bond possible, always just keep in mind. S orbital overlapping is there, 100% sigma bond. Next one, second one, s orbital to px orbital. Third one, s orbital to py. Fourth one, s orbital to pz. I said that s orbital, if it is present, obviously sigma bond. So now here px orbital internuclear axis I am taking x axis, py nothing but internuclear axis y, pz nothing but internuclear axis I am taking as a z. So one is internuclear axis x, one is y, and another one is what? Z. The resulting bond formation sigma, sigma and sigma bond. And the next one is fifth one. So s and p is completed, and the next one is px orbital plus px orbital. Sixth one is py orbital plus py orbital. Seventh one is pz orbital plus pz orbital. Two same orbitals I am taking. One is px, py, pz. At the same time, internuclear axis also. What internuclear axis we have to take? It means whatever the orbitals we are taking, the orbital axis is what you have to check. Px, x-axis, px, x-axis. If the internuclear axis also same axis related to orbital, it will be give the sigma bond simply. So now px, internuclear axis, x-axis, py, internuclear axis, y-axis, pz, internuclear axis is z-axis, resulting of the bond is sigma bond. So here sigma bond and then sigma bond, and this is also sigma bond. If different is there, maybe sometimes bond does not take place, sometimes will be pi bond takes place. Let us see, for example, eighth one. So I am taking px is completed, right? Next one I am taking px, py I am taking px plus py, and the ninth one I am taking py plus pz, and the 10th one I am taking pz plus px. See a different kind of orbitals overlapping. Px, py, the internuclear axis may be any one except this. Okay, one is that here x-axis I am taking, here what I am taking, y-axis I am taking. One is x-axis and one more is y-axis. Px, py I am taking, right? So one is what? Px and px. Sorry, here px I am taking. So same kind of orbital, px I am taking here also. So one is a px orbital, other one is py py orbital, other one is pz pz orbital, but different axis I am taking. Here x axis is there, but other than x axis I am taking maybe y or maybe z. Here y axis is there, maybe z, maybe x. Here z axis is there, maybe x or maybe y. So different kind of orbitals, what internuclear axes I am taking. When I am taking different kind of internuclear axes, it will be give the pi bonds. It will be give the pi bond. But what here, same orbitals I am taking, px px, py py, pz pz. When different orbitals when you are taking, bond does not possible, because different orbitals having different orientations or different directions it is having. That's why bond does not take place, excepting s orbital, because s orbital is non-directional. So if you take s orbital is non-directional, px is x axis nothing but, we can say non-directional, but any direction is possible, there is no problem. But px px same axis, py py same axis, pz pz same axis. But the orbital overlapping, if you take different axes, for example one is px, one is py, bond does not possible. One is py, one is pz, bond does not possible. One is pz, one is px, bond does not possible, because the orbital's direction is different. Same direction containing orbitals, when it is overlap, bond is possible. Different direction containing orbital, when it is overlap, bond does not possible once you take the screenshot. Next one I am taking px py. Next I am taking what? Px py and py pz or pz px. Next what I am taking? Px py. Next one py pz. Next one pz px. So three different orbitals I am taking. One is what? Px py, py pz and pz px. So whatever the axis you can take, any axis you can take. Maybe you can take x axis, maybe you can take y axis, maybe you can take z axis. Whatever the axis you can take, the bond does not possible, because whatever the orbitals are overlapping, the orbital direction should be same. Whatever the orbitals are overlapping, the two orbital direction must be same, either px px, py py, pz pz compulsory, but not px py, but not py pz. Two different orbital, two different direction containing orbitals, if it is overlap, there is no bond takes place. To form the bond, either sigma bond, either pi bond, compulsory the bonds should be same direction is having. Same axis, same direction is a sigma bond. Same axis but different direction is a, that is what, pi bond. Once again, same axis px px, py py, pz pz, same internuclear axis, x axis, y axis, z axis, same orbital, same internuclear axis, sigma bond. Same orbital's direction, different internuclear axis, pi bond. Let us see, px px same direction, but internuclear axis what? Y and z, not a x, that's why pi bond. Here what? Py py, axis is same, py and py, but internuclear axis must be pi. If it is pi, sorry, if it is y, sigma bond is possible, but what is that internuclear axis? Z or x. What is takes place? Pi bond. Next one is what? Pz orbital, the direction is same. One is z axis, another one z axis. If the internuclear axis also z, sigma bond possible, but internuclear axis what is there? X or y. At that time pi bond is takes place. So finally you have to remember that orbital direction must be same. Orbital direction must be same. Depend on the internuclear axis same or internuclear axis different, pi bond, sigma bond possible. Orbital axis, internuclear axis both are same, sigma bond takes place. Orbital axis is same but internuclear axis is different, it will be give the pi bond formation. So this is about what? Sigma bond and pi bond formation takes place. The bond order, the bond strength order is very, very important. So this is the completely valency bond theory. Completely valency bond theory. So and according to this bond only, we have to discuss about the formation of the CH4 NH3, and next of all what? BeCl2 BF3 and H2 HCl. So different kind of molecule we are going to discuss, and this is the entire discussion of the valency bond theory. And the remaining topic will be discussed in the next class, that is hybridization and valency shell electron pair repulsion theory. And thank you.